Hey, Facebook. Welcome to our Hard Conversations chat. And for right now, it is just me for the next few minutes. Queen is finishing up an appointment quick and hoping she'll pop on here in just a moment. So bear with us for just a few seconds. In the meanwhile, while we're waiting for our dual screen to click on, if you have any comments or questions that you'd like to post for me to view, I'm certainly happy to field any of those online. And I'm always just really curious to know what people are getting from discussions like these. And so real quick, I'm going to review what we've been going through. So the focus of this week's chats has been just sort of a really deep dive into some of the cultural differences that inform our worldview and the way that we form our opinions and how we learn things, how we define our meanings, and that really changes from between four cultures. And these were outlined by, hold on, I'm just pulling up my little graph here, by Edwin J. Nichols, Dr. Edwin J. Nichols. And so the things that we've covered from Monday through today have been the axiology and the epistemology of European and Euro-American cultural groups, as well as African and African-American, Hispanics, and Arab cultural groups. And so on Monday, we went over the axiology, or the way that we derive our value and our identification within that cultural view. And then yesterday was all about epistemology, which is how we know a thing within our cultural view. And so, yeah, I'm just curious to know if you've tuned in on Monday and Tuesday, how you're finding these discussions and how they're working on you. I see there are 4 of you here right now. Oh, I'll make that 5. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for dropping in. Oh, and there's Queen. Okay, fantastic. So I'm just going to add her to the stream. Hey, Queen, can you hear me?
My sound. Hold on.
Yeah, I was just kind of bringing everybody up to speed with a quick little recap of what we've covered the last 2 days. I was inviting some questions and comments from everybody just while they were waiting for us to get situated. But I have not introduced tonight's topic. So, yeah.
Okay. Look at you being all efficient.
Starting
without me. All right, let's see here.
Sorry. How are you, first of all?
I am well, thank you. I had a client, so yeah, but bumped right up against this.
Right.
Y'all gonna have to look. There's no other way than to put my
just do it. We didn't get to do our little prep, our little meetup a few minutes prior to live, so it's all right.
How is the sound?
It's a lot better than last night.
Oh, perfect, because we had a little. All right, let's get with it then.
Yeah, well, we've got 5 viewers so far, so hooray. And I just want to say, oh my God, between Monday night's discussion and last night's discussion, we had over 1,000 views. Yeah, but over the 2 discussions we had, I think there were over 300 in the first from Monday night's discussion, and it's probably continuing to, grow a little bit. And then last night's discussion was over 650 and counting views. And so I just am so appreciative that people are interested and tuning in and just checking it out, because it's very important. It's important stuff to be talking about.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that people find find us interesting enough to listen to.
I know, right? Yeah. Oh, and I just like, I was debating whether to mention this, but I'm feeling a little bit freaked out that for all of eternity on YouTube, for wherever these discussions at the link where they will be posted, I am going to be wearing my perma ponytail from stupid COVID because my haircut isn't until next week. So I was just feeling a little sad about that, but it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to
It
be
will.
okay.
It will. All right. So what's our okay, you can
You want me to go read through tonight?
yeah,
Okay,
what
yeah.
are we talking about?
Okay, so back to our philosophical aspects of cultural difference. Monday and Tuesday, we covered axiology and epistemology, and I was kind of bringing everybody up to speed on what that was.
Okay.
And tonight, we are discussing logic. So this is how you process information, make decisions, choose directions. That's what I take that to mean for logic. And again, we're coming to this from the white European, Euro-American perspective or ethnic group worldview and the African American, African, Hispanic, and Arab ethnic group worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And so the logic of the European Euro-Americans is dichotomous, either or, black or white, up or down, right or left. I'm just like, I can't wait for this discussion.
Right or
And
wrong.
yeah, right or wrong, right? It's one thing or the other. There's no in between. That is how we organize our decisions, our values, our judgments, our direction.
Mm-hmm.
If we're white, typically. And then for African, African American, Hispanic, and Arab, that is diunital, which is the union of opposites. Another word for that is difrasismo, which is the Aztec thought or culture. Different slash opposite, but with a single meaning. So I'm super excited to break down all of that crazy terminology. Or
Yeah.
not crazy, but just like deep, rich terminology.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
union of opposites.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So what you think about it?
Well, it just explains a lot for me about how our government works, how our systems work, how our morality works if we're white. Oh my God, the morality thing is like a big deal, right? Very much you're in a right camp or a wrong camp. So like a prime example of that for me, or that I've just watched the evolution of, and we're making some progress on it, but still so many people think you're wrong if you're gay and you're right if you're straight. Like that's a big shining example that comes out for me. And then the other really polarizing, controversial political thing is abortion. There's one or the other. You have an abortion or you don't. If you have an abortion, you're wrong. If you don't, you're right. I mean, like that's a commonly held viewpoint in our country. And there's no, like, both sides are so dug in on their morals, values, etc., that it's just really difficult to find any kind of a middle ground in legislation and the way we roll out laws, etc. So yeah, that's what it brings up as just like, duh, of course, if you look at the systems of whiteness, you can see that logic splattered all over it everywhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I sure do. I
Yeah.
see,
Mm-hmm.
I see it. I experience it, right?
Yes.
The either or. And the things that you just brought up. Okay, so uh from the black side, the union of opposites.
Mm-hmm.
different opposite with a single meaning. Okay. So, for instance, you just brought up abortion,
Hmm.
right or wrong. Like you either for life or you're against life.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
That's some the like again, just like last night. There's some things that I'm like, did you really hear what you said? Do you really hear what you're saying?
Probably not.
Right? Because you're saying we have to protect life. Now, this is life that you don't even know is going to come.
Hmm.
Just in case somebody might get pregnant, we want to make sure
Hmm.
that they can't have an abortion. In
And
case somebody might get pregnant, right? In case a baby
right.
might show up on the scene, we want to make sure that we protect that baby.
Hmm.
Now, once that baby breathing, all bets are off. We
Okay.
can
Yeah.
murder them, we can rape them, we can abuse them, we can jail them, we can do whatever we want to the baby, as long as we get it here. We
Hmm.
can cage it, we can starve it, we can do all of those things, and we're good. We're still good with God. But if we don't make sure that people don't have a way of getting to that baby and murdering that baby before we do, then we're not right with God.
Yeah. That's really and I want to. So those words are bringing up for me to say for the person who comments back or who might think back, no, that's not how I feel. That's not at all how I feel. I believe all life is sacred, whatever. Kids shouldn't be caged, people shouldn't be raped, etc. The actions and the behaviors bear out a different dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to separate
Oh,
that
absolutely.
even if you as an individual are like, no, kids shouldn't be in cages and people shouldn't be raped and whatever, but we still need to make sure that abortion is illegal. um, that the actions and behaviors of the system, of the individuals who operate within the system and the power structure, indicate there's a real dichotomy between what we might say we believe as individuals and what our actions actually bear out.
There's definitely cognitive dissonance there,
Yeah.
for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
And one of the things that have come up when we're again, I keep it front and center. You have George Floyd laying in the street with a knee on his neck
Hmm.
for over 8 minutes,
Hmm.
right? Now, if George Floyd was a black woman, pregnant black woman,
Hmm.
the idea would be save that baby, but she's
Expendable.
free. Yeah, she's free
Hmm.
game, but save that
Yeah.
baby,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Save the baby, but she's free game. Now, once the baby is born, the baby becomes free game too.
Yeah. That is the story. That is the yeah.
And
That's
and
the
not
story
only
we tell with
and
our
not only
actions.
that, if you're really pro life, and you want to make sure that no babies are aborted, every time you kill a black man, do you know how many babies you aborted? Let's count. Let's count
If that's your
that.
point of view, yeah.
Let's look in the
Hmm.
semen and let's count all of those things wiggling
Hmm.
around there. So then we can put them in the body count.
Right. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're like,
You don't ever have to ask me that. Just
well,
yeah,
I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought if there was more, that's all.
yeah.
So if we go to the African American, Hispanic, Arab ethnic worldview of logic, this word diunital, the union of opposites, or diffracismo, different opposite with a single meaning. Tell me how do you define that? How can you help some of our viewers know, because they're probably almost all white?
I would define it. Uh, I think the best way for to give a visual that
Mm-hmm.
most people would understand would be the yin and the yang.
Okay. The yin and the yang.
Yeah, you have the opposites. You have light and dark in everything.
Okay.
You can't have one without the other. That's
Mm-hmm.
what balances everything. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have electricity, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Batteries wouldn't work,
Right, because you need a positive and a
right?
negative pole.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you have light and dark, life and death, and everything. They're single. It's the same thing. No different than you can't tell me when light becomes dark. If I ask you exactly what time did it get dark, exactly what time did it become light?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same thing with this either or, right or wrong. If you look at that on a line and somebody got to point their finger and say, right here, it becomes wrong.
Yep. Okay.
Right here, it becomes right. Somebody has to make that judgment. However, the way that I define it is everything's right. And my right becomes wrong when it gets in the way of my righter. My good, everything's good. But my good becomes bad when it gets in the way of the gooder,
Okay.
right?
Yep. I'm just digesting
My
that.
light, my light becomes darkness when it gets in the way of me becoming even more light.
Okay.
That's called evolution, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's called evolution. So
So, okay, so if that is the case, I'm trying to kind of come back to like how would we relate some kind of an approach to
it's not
anti
either or, it's and.
okay.
Black lives matter and we need law and order. Not either
Okay.
or. Not either or. Oh, in order to have cops, we have to put up with black men getting killed in the street.
Hmm.
What? Only in your world because it don't work in mine.
See, that's what I wanted to nail is how
Yeah,
does that,
yeah. Only
hmm
in your world because it doesn't work in mine.
yeah.
So if having law and order means that black men must be murdered or sacrificed, then I say wipe it all out. Again,
Yep.
back to that. Wipe it all out. I'm going
Well,
for group, right? I'm going for member to member. Well, if
hmm
that's the case, lock your stuff up and try your best to keep it from getting stolen. Because
okay.
we ain't gonna have the law. But like this, period. I'd rather have the lives, right? Now
hmm
you could get into, but what if? And that's another thing that we get. Like I heard that when they were talking about trying to justify um why, oh gosh, why am I forgetting his name? The man who just got murdered in Atlanta, Mr. What is his name? Please find. I just said it earlier. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank, but I'm gonna
Ooh,
get
we're while you're searching, Queen, we're getting a little
it.
bit of white noise.
Are we?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that's
I wonder
coming
if my I
from.
wonder if it's my air conditioner. Well, hold on, let me try something. But
Okay.
anyway, Mr. Rayshard Brooks, right?
Yes.
Um, and
Yes, Rayshard Brooks. Hmm.
and the incident with him being spoken of in a way that tries to justify his murder, his being shot in the back twice, right?
Right, right.
Justifying it by what if he would have jumped in another car, took off, and killed somebody? What if he would, right? Trying to
Yeah.
justify.
Hmm.
So reaching for a this in order for this to happen, then we must make this true, right? In order for me to murder him, then I must make true that he was going to murder somebody. And that's
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
So I
You have to
have to make
create.
him wrong in order to make me right. And that's the
Mhm.
oldest playbook. In order to justify what I do, I must tell you how he's wrong. I must tell you what his rap sheet is. I must tell you whether he was on drugs. I must prove that he's wrong. And by the nature of proving that he's wrong, makes me right.
And so I would suggest too that that is just an extension of the same slave owner story
Mm-hmm.
of these people are savages who need to be educated, who would die without our intervention, um, without our owning them as property. Um, same. Oh, can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Is
the
that
sound.
better? Is that white noise still going?
No, the white noise is good actually. That's much better, whatever you did.
I put earphones in.
Oh, good. Okay. That's probably why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the same story. It's just a different circumstance. Instead of slave owners or the slave trade,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's the police.
Right. Right.
And making something a problem before it's a problem to be able to justify the
Right.
action. And it makes me question, like, okay, with Rayshard Brooks, he ran away. He, like, I think the account was he grabbed one of the cops' tasers,
Mm-hmm.
was trying to whatever. He was, he kind of was trying to flee the scene.
First, before you even get into that,
Okay.
I want to stop it right there for just a little interjection,
Okay.
because this is the storyline,
Yeah.
but it always starts in the same place. Versus, let's start with the truth.
Okay.
There was a black man who was stopped by the cops, who because somebody called because he was under the influence and
Right.
driving. He has a peaceful interaction with the police officers.
Hmm.
The police officers then tell him, "You are under an arrest."
Excuse me. Hmm.
Let's stop right there.
Okay.
What does that mean to a black man today?
I'm gonna die.
So do I run for my life, literally, or
Hmm.
do I take my chances of living once these cuffs are put on me?
Yeah, I just want to leave some space for that.
That's the part of the discussion that is not happening. What does it mean for a black man to be put in cuffs?
Hmm.
To be left without his ability to fight for his breath? We already saw it. We just saw this a couple weeks. What did it mean for that man to be in cuffs without the ability to fight for his breath?
Hmm.
Now we can talk about the rest of the story and how it played out.
Okay. I'm not sure there's anything more to talk about. And for me, as I'm listening to that, then it makes me go, yeah, the police need to be, and by police, when I say police, I mean the policing system, not the
Mm-hmm,
individual police, but the
mm-hmm.
policing system needs to be blown up and start from zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a personal example of this, uh, just this stark contrast in policing the other day, when I was out on a bike ride. So I'm just on this trail by my house, and the route that I take goes by this little path that leads down to a beach where a lot of people typically go to party.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see, random people coming in and out of there during the summertime and whatever. Well, as I'm going on this trail, I'm seeing all of these people just exiting out of this beach with their supplies and their towels and whatever. And I finally get to the walk-up space, and there's 2 cop cars parked there, and it's clear that they've probably, cleared out just whoever was gathering at this
Mm-hmm.
place, because a lot of times there's weed, or I actually haven't been down there myself because it's a bit of a hike and I'm usually on my bicycle. But I've heard that people swim nude and there are some drugs, and
Uh-huh.
it's just like a
Uh-huh.
party beach, and
They
it's
got Woodstock going on down there.
yeah. But everybody that they were, and I won't say absolutely 100% of everybody was white, because I think there were a couple of Black people or people of color coming up, but the grand majority of everybody was white. And it was clear that the police hadn't arrested anybody. They were just like, y'all need to go home. And there was no incident. At least everything appeared to be just very quietly disbanding. And I found myself wondering how it would look different if it were a group of mostly Black people.
Mhm. Well, we kind of know that we've had that we've had
Yeah.
that incident happen,
Yeah.
throughout the history in this country of what it looks like when there is a group of Black people who
Mhm.
are being disbanded for any in any reason or no reason,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, it is problematic, to say the least, what it means for a Black person to be touched by a police officer, period.
Yeah.
Touched. And now I believe that it has gotten to the point to where we really do need to have the discussion about, does a person have a right to fight for their life?
Yeah,
Do
that's
I
a big
have a
discussion.
right? First of all, understanding that it is a natural reflex
Right.
for the body to fight to live.
Yep.
And I don't give a damn who you are.
No.
Let somebody put a pillow over you and see how the body responds. Its
Mhm.
natural instinct is to flail,
Mhm.
fighting to live.
Mhm.
Let a person be drowning and you go out and try to save them. That's one of the most dangerous things you can do, because the body is fighting to live and will fight you, the one who's
Right.
coming to
Yeah.
save it.
It's like the first rule of lifeguarding.
So you mean to tell me we can understand that, but we can't understand why a Black man would go swinging
Mhm.
if they are put in a certain position by a police officer? Why his body and everything in him, not his brain, not his
Right.
logical brain saying, oh, these are authorities, be respectful. No, his body, every cell in this man's body perks up and say, oh no, time to fight. We
Mhm.
got to fight to live. Our life is in danger. Yet I don't even hear it talked about that way. Not only by most white people that I've heard talking about it, but even by Black people
Okay.
who see the world through the white lens and don't even recognize the effect that racism has had on how they look at their own people,
Yeah.
without compassion, without awareness, right? Without context, the context that I just gave you.
Mhm.
There are even Black people who can't even see it in context because they see through the white lens and don't realize that when you as a Black person can watch a Black man being shot down without identifying that Black man with your son or your
Mhm.
husband or your brother or your cousin, you've got a problem. if you can dissociate yourself and disconnect in that way and make yourself different or other
Mm-hmm.
versus how our natural um, way of logic is, which is the union of opposites, uh, different opposite with a single meaning, meaning everything is united for us. So if we could disunite ourselves from even that which should remind us most of ourselves, then we know that we have an injury there.
Yeah.
There's an injury there. And so I'm seeing that, and those are some of the side effects of racism, side effects of slavery,
Yeah.
side effects of trauma.
I want to put that into another context too. Again, that might feel, I'm always looking for ways to relate, to empathize, to make more human that which seems different, just
But
because
isn't
of
it
the soup.
crazy though that you even have to do that?
It is,
That your
but
first instinct isn't to go the human, like you have to shape things to feel the human connection when it comes to
yeah,
the
it's
black
sad, but I think it's true,
Mhm.
and that's why
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
bringing it up.
Yeah.
And so the example that I want to bring is slut shaming.
Oh.
Women slut shaming other women.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that, again, I want to go back to um, the the piece of like, how do you think it would feel to be cuffed and know that there's a good chance that you're going to die, and then you're going to go into your fight or flight or freeze
Mm-hmm.
response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so white people, for them, the most part, or in the majority of the time, our relationship with cops is just not, it doesn't carry that threat. We don't feel like we're going to die
Girl.
if,
You didn't see in the videos with white people with knives going at cops, and they still get to go home at night,
yeah,
or
or
with
they get a
guns,
cheeseburger
taking
when
the
they've,
cop's gun, beating the cop with, and the person still lives. Like these are
Mhm.
real threats, and the person still
Yeah,
lives.
yeah. And so it is putting on a different, it's putting on a different lens. It's allowing yourself to slip into a different skin for a moment and going, oh, what would I do if I knew from all the many videos that I had seen and the experiences that I had seen on my street or in my neighborhood or whatever, from when I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
that if I were cuffed by police, I was probably going to die. Yeah, then what would that feel like? What would I do? Would I fight, flee, or freeze? Like, those are our three trauma responses, and that's it. There's three of them. That's
Right.
it. And we don't have control over which one we choose. Like, it just comes out in the moment. It's reflexive, just like you said. And so you have those three options, and what would they be? But all of them are going to leave you scarred. All of them are going to leave you damaged. And there's a really good chance that you won't live through it if you're
Mm-hmm.
Black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that makes me that when you say those words, that makes me stop. And that it just makes me stop.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say other than that.
Mm-hmm. Because it's, if truly contemplated, it's enough to make anybody stop.
Mm-hmm.
Right. However, we often, that's the reason why we don't stop at that part of the story.
Say more.
We don't allow that into the story so that we don't have to stop, and it can be jumped to, justified.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Well butts.
Mm-hmm.
Well but.
Yes.
Well but.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And even how you articulated what many of us know, because we've come a long way with psychology, a long way in the sciences, mental, emotional, even physical sciences,
Mm-hmm.
how the mind work, how the emotions work, how the body responds, all of that. We've come a long way with that knowledge. And yet I see it all the time, whether it's in the coaching industry, whether it's in therapy or what have you. That same knowledge is not applied to the Black experience. We don't get to have those things. We don't get to have those three responses.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
We
saying.
don't get
Yeah.
to, we don't get to, we don't get to have that experience, right?
Yeah. Because
Uh,
you're not quite as human.
yeah. So we don't get to have those experiences that
Mm.
humans have. Ours is just either you're right or you wrong, and if we deem you wrong, you die. We don't
Wow.
get the mistakes. We don't get the benefit of mistakes, or, oh, it was mental illness,
Yeah.
which is always the what comes up whenever a white man goes and kills a church full of people, or goes to a
Yeah.
concert and randomly just kill people, or stand on top of a building and randomly kill people. It's mental illness. Or take a gun from a cop, it's mental illness. Or
Mm-hmm.
beat a cop up, it's mental illness, right?
Can we go back to your statement of if we deem you wrong? If we decide that you are wrong, you as a people, you as a culture, then you die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just,
And
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and let's be clear that there are many deaths that we die.
Mm-hmm.
We physically lose our lives. We economically lose our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Health wise, we lose our lives,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
We lose our
look
lives,
at expectant moms.
right? We die in
Mhm.
many ways. The system is set up to kill us in many ways. It doesn't always have to be at the end of a
End of a
barrel
gun.
of a cop,
Yeah.
or a vigilante white man who
Mm-hmm.
is self-defined cop, going
Right. Yeah.
around looking for. No, it's through economics. We get killed constantly through economics, right? Constantly through the
Yeah.
health system, the
I
lack
want,
of thereof, food deserts. We get starved, like all kinds of things. What's put in the neighborhood? Alcohol,
mm-hmm.
fast food, slow deaths.
Yep. Smoking.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
slow deaths. We are killed. We are murdered on purpose. Why do you think you don't see zoning in white areas where you can go every corner and see a liquor store? Why do you think the zoning is
Right.
written that way?
Yeah.
Why do you think the zoning is written in such a way where fast foods can't be so condensed in certain areas of a white area? Why do the restaurants look different? Why does the zoning look different? Why does housing look different? Even the proximity to where housing could be to certain areas
Mm-hmm.
of toxicity. Why does the zoning look different for
Right. You mean
companies with
like
chemicals,
environmental? Yeah.
where
Mm-hmm.
companies with chemicals can move into areas where Black people are, but can't move into areas where white people are,
Yeah.
right? Can be around where the water is where Black people will receive it, but can't be around where the water is where white people. We get killed. We suffer death in many, many different ways.
Yes. So yes to all of that. And what all of that is bringing up for me is two things. White fear and um, and the pervasive sense of lack. So and let me and I'll explain what I mean by that. So and this goes back to the logic, the either or, right? And
Mm-hmm.
within that either or argument, for me, also feels like there's this distinct message of there's not enough. I feel like that's underneath the umbrella of the either or, and I can't quite explain why I think that, but it just feels like it's there. And so the fear of if Black people are allowed to be human, and again, I say that through the white supremacy lens, if Black people are allowed to be human, then there will not be enough of whatever, of abundance, of healthcare, of financial solvency, of whatever, that there will not be enough somehow for everybody to have whatever they need, and have whatever they need to thrive and prosper. And I maybe, like, that might be coming out a little bit unclear, and I'm still trying to sort of piece it together in my own head, but those are some of the things that are coming out as we
Mm-hmm.
as we talk. That's what's coming
Um,
up for me.
I I'm not I'm not surprised that's what would come up. I think that's part of the white jargon,
Oh, okay.
especially now in this self-help, spiritual kind of, you
Okay.
know, self-development world is the not enoughness and fear of not having enough and all that stuff. I think is
Okay.
bull
Okay.
in this in this context, and this is why.
Okay.
Um, I don't think that it seems to me, based off of history and how things move and how the systems are set up, that it even occurs to whiteness that they're under threat at all
Mm-hmm.
from Blackness, because there's no competition. So it's not that I don't feel like there's enough for me and you. I literally
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like you even deserve it. I
Yeah.
feel like you don't even deserve it. You don't deserve, you haven't earned, you haven't paid the price. You uh haven't proved yourself worthy enough for me to ever give up my position of what I see as superiority to let you come up here and be equal to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there is a lack of feeling of superiority. Like superiority is in limited supply, and therefore, if we give you some, then we won't know. To be seen, everything to be seen through the white lens, you reflect upon me what it is that I believe myself to be. So if I believe myself to be righteous, then you must be sinful. If I believe myself to
There's the
be
opposite.
superior, then
Mm-hmm.
you must be inferior. If I believe myself to
Yeah.
have the superior God, then you must have the lesser God. If I believe, you see
There
what
it
I'm
is.
saying?
Yeah. There it is. That's the binary.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
binary.
That's
Mm-hmm.
the right. And
Yeah.
so I think, but what I am glad about why that came up for you, because I think it's very I think it's beneficial to talk about, uh, is that what I'm starting to see with how this is playing out now, and why I think these kind of conversations are important and for things to come up naturally for us to
Mm-hmm.
like grapple with,
Mm-hmm.
is because there are some things that sound really sexy that are starting to get into the conversation, and they're
Okay.
another justification, right? So right now, I was talking to somebody today, and she was talking about how she's starting to see all of these posts and conversations with white women who are saying, "Oh, well, I'm in a book club, and we're studying how anti-racism, and we're studying this, and we're studying post-traumatic slave syndrome, we're studying how black this," or right, they're doing the
Yeah.
read, right, which
Yeah.
is what
Right.
we encourage.
Right. Getting the reading done. Sure.
But it's starting to be the end thing.
The performative, like, do you mean
Yeah,
it's
it's
more
the end
performative?
thing. It's, yeah, I'm in a book club. Like, it's the
Trendy.
latest fad,
Yeah,
right?
it's trendy.
This is what I'm doing. I'm in a book club. Well, I've marched. Well, right? It's the
Yeah.
latest fad. Well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Well, I'm doing this to show you that I'm woke, or that I'm waking up, or that I see, right?
Yeah. Optical. I think Layla Sad,
Mm-hmm.
I think she refers to that as optical allyship.
Ah,
I believe I can go back to the
yeah.
book and confirm that, but I think that's the term she would use
Mm-hmm.
to describe what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
Optical
there are
allyship.
so there are a lot of things that are and this is the thing. I'm not hating on it. It makes
Hmm.
sense to me that these things would come up,
Yeah.
because anytime you try to do some real inner work and move forward, you're all these sexy things are always going to pop up to
Right.
make you feel like you're doing something, but really keep you as comfortable as possible, so that you're not really doing anything dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? You're not really doing anything that will cause disruption or change, but
Yeah.
you're doing enough to make you feel like you're not just doing nothing.
Right. Yeah. You're at
Right?
least
And so
yeah.
in the
Hmm.
coaching world, in the spiritual world, and all of that, one of the fallbacks is the not enoughness,
Okay.
right? Is the fear of lack and all of that kind of stuff. Well, that has its place in your
Okay.
personal, meaning how you might deal with money, or how you
Sure.
might deal with,
Yeah.
right?
In
But
your
that ain't
personal
got nothing to
process.
do
Yeah.
with white privilege.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
that's not in the conversation of white privilege. It's not in the conversation of racism, right? But it, again, it's in the person. When you get into your personal work, you're gonna have to deal with that.
Confront that. Yeah.
You're
Hmm.
gonna have to confront it. It's
Yeah.
just that, keep it in context. Like, it doesn't become this thing that's right. That a fear of lack is not what causes these systems to be what they are.
Sure.
A sense of entitlement causes these systems to be what they are, not a fear of lack. It's entitlement.
Okay.
No, this is
Yeah.
for me to have. I am, again, it goes into some of the myths of what was the one myth, was the myth of divine destiny. I think it was, right?
Okay.
Divine destiny. It is my divine destiny to own, to prosper,
Sure.
to have, to get, to,
My
right? It's
birthright.
my, because I'm part
Yeah.
of the chosen people. It is my divine destiny, and it's not your
So
divine destiny.
okay, I want to add to that a little bit, and I've seen this with several anti-racist authors,
Mm-hmm.
where when you start to mess with or disrupt, not mess with, when you start to disrupt that entitlement for the entitled people,
Uh-huh.
it feels like oppression.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like theft or stealing
Yes.
or whatever. And
Yes.
so it's like, I want to call that out, because if we just stay in that feeling of, hey, wait a minute, like, what the hell? You're taking this away from me, or it feels like if
Yeah.
I have that feeling of you're taking it away from me,
How is it
then,
fair for you to take my stuff and give it to them?
right,
How is that
right.
fair? Yeah.
Then we're just going to keep digging in our heels.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can have that awareness of, oh, that's right, I'm the entitled party here, I'm the entitled group here. When something comes in to disrupt that entitlement, I need to remind myself that it's not taking anything away from me, and I'm not oppressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm saying that just to call myself out and to call other people who might feel that, hey, wait a minute, when things start to change,
Yeah, yeah.
when we get
Yeah.
that disruption, that we
Mhm.
need to remind ourselves that it's not theft and it's not oppression. That is what equality
Could you imagine
feels
if
and
we
looks
riddle
like.
could you imagine if we really settled the books?
I
Could you
that
imagine if we
n
really settled the books? Like if we really said, okay,
Mhm.
we want everything fair from the get. So you only get to benefit from the amount of work that either you or your ancestors did, like
Right.
physical work.
Yeah.
Like you
Labor.
only get to
Mhm.
benefit from that. If we settled the score, if we settled the books, could you imagine what that would be? And you had to prove
I
why you were
Yeah.
entitled to what you have based off of the books.
Mhm.
Like, because it rolls generation to generation,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
everything that you have is based off of how things were set up before you ever got in the game. Like
Mhm.
you have things based off of how the game was set up from the get-go.
Well,
So if we stripped all of that,
none of us white people would have any of the property that we own because it would all be native.
exactly.
Like, that's what it would look like. We would
And if
still
you
be
had to pay a fair price for it in order to have it, right? If you would have had to do your own labor in order to benefit off of it, if you would have had to make whatever it was yourself that you sold, if you and your family would have had to be the actual creators of it, the actual makers of it, in
Mhm.
order to sell it and profit off of it, girl, please.
And
If you
so
even had to have the skills
right.
to do it, right? If you
Yeah.
even had to have the skills to do it, because remember, they didn't go over there and just pluck random Africans and just bring them over. No, they went and got skilled
Skilled
workers.
labor. Yeah.
They
And
they
s
brought over people who could do things that they could not do. They didn't know how to do.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it would just be a completely different landscape.
Mhm.
And
Completely.
I would also suggest too that, if like we were having this discussion yesterday about white women pitted against black women, and we kind of went into that and
Mhm.
unpacked it a little bit. And I would also suggest too that it would also be a different landscape as well if more white women knew how to leave during that time, during the time of enslavement, during the time. um I was just thinking a lot about that today, that would have also changed the landscape a lot.
Knew how to leave.
Knew how to leave their, like, we were talking about not
Right.
only the trauma that black people
Uh-huh.
incurred from being enslaved, but also the trauma that
Right.
white
But
people incurred.
what do you mean by if they would have known how to leave?
So if a white woman had a moral and values problem with
Mhm.
her white husband raping and abusing an enslaved female, black woman,
Mhm.
if she would have had, and I'm sure many women did, you know,
Mhm.
um, but didn't have the tools or the resources or the way to leave, to get out. Um, that like that was part of, yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm not making a ton of sense, and I'm
No,
still.
you are. You are.
Yeah,
But this
okay.
is um you are making I get where you're going with that. And it again, it shows um the difference between the cultures and the logic, right?
Okay. Okay.
That I think this is a good example,
Okay.
because you said if she knew how to leave. If she knew how to walk away from somehow leave,
Yeah.
right? It would have changed
Yeah.
the. Did you see the movie Harriet?
No, I have not seen that yet.
Oh my God, that was a good
I
movie. So anyway,
I will see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
uh and they couldn't put everything in there. So that was the gripe of some people. But my
Sure.
goodness, it was about Harriet. They kept it focused on that but so I think it was really good. But anyway, in Harriet, that you would notice the logic of the enslaved. And it was tell everybody I'm leaving so
Okay.
that whoever wants to come, we will
Oh my
meet at
God.
this place at this time
Yeah.
and we're going together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't let me get out. It was let us,
Us get out.
let us get out. Right. It was let us again. And in Harriet, you saw um, her rendition of what they would do. Remember, I think, I don't know if I talked to you about it or if it was with Amy, but talking about the music
Hmm.
and how
Yeah.
back
It was
then the
code.
music
It was
that
code.
was a language, right? That was a
Yeah.
language they were talking to each other, and how they would begin singing,
Hmm.
and through the words, people would hear it and start coming out because they knew, hey, somebody's saying they're running and I'm going to.
Yes, and I'm just sitting here trying not to cry, or at least not ugly cry. Um, because, and I don't have a freaking box of Kleenex anywhere near me, so I'm just like, I'm holding it together.
Hold it
But,
together.
I'm just like, it is landing so hard with me about how white supremacy is a universal wound. And white supremacy doesn't discriminate about who it hurts.
Mm-mm.
It's just who figures out that they're hurt.
Yeah.
And none of, I mean, like, yeah, so it's not, I mean, like, white supremacy is not a black wound.
Mm-mm.
It's not a Native American wound. It's everybody's wound.
Yeah.
And it just
Um,
hurts.
the taking the ownership
Mm.
of that is like, we know we've been wounded.
Yeah.
Our lives say it. Our conditions say it. What we continue to live up under say it, because we're constantly re-traumatized, constantly re-wounded, right?
Yeah.
So now I say we know we've been wounded for the most part, but there are plenty of Black people who have swam in whiteness long enough to
Yeah.
where they don't even recognize their wound,
Yeah. I believe it.
right? They
I
don't even
believe that too.
recognize their wound.
Hmm.
Because they identify with white more than they identify with Black, and they become colorless. They
Sure.
say, "Oh, well, I'm color.
Yeah.
I'm not one. I'm not in that. I love all people. They're all lives matter too.
I
So they
always just
become
wonder when
they
people say
become
colorless, I wonder if that just means like, are you clear? Are you
right.
see-through? Like,
They
what does
become
that even
colorless.
mean? Yeah. Hmm.
And I say that not as a harsh judgment on them, because I was there. Right? I know I've been
Yeah.
through that process. I
Yeah.
swam in the pool long enough to almost become colorless. Like, I always keep a little thug life about me.
Which I hope
Always
you
keep a
never, I
little,
hope you never
you
lose.
know, my family always keep me, in
Yeah.
there. My kids will call me out in a minute, so I can't go too far,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because my
Yeah.
kids got me on lock when it comes to that. And my family does too. So, I'll never become colorless, but I was close enough to the line. But I was always reminded by them. But let me tell you, the reason why I got so close to the line is because I sincerely believed, like I'm telling you, with everything in me,
Yeah.
I sincerely believed that it could be cured if a white person got to know me and love me, and they would connect to that, and that would heal the whole situation.
Okay.
And 2016 taught me that no, that ain't it.
No way.
That's not that's not how it happens,
No.
right? It just makes if anything, it supports racism by making a person comfortable and
Yeah.
feeling that they don't have a problem because they have a really good black friend that they love.
Yeah, and that's like using using tokenism as a defense.
Mhm.
I
But
have
not
I
seeing it
have a
as
black friend,
tokenism because you
therefore I'm not
truly,
racist.
yeah, but
Hmm.
not feeling that it's tokenism because you truly love them.
Right.
You truly enjoy
Yeah.
spending time with them. You truly look at them as family.
Right.
So that's, you know what, that's like thinking that every interracial couple, that the white person in that relationship is not racist. That's an
Yeah.
issue there too, you know.
Yeah.
It,
Totally.
because I've seen plenty of interracial couples where the white person be saying in the relationship, when they're expressing things, it's laced with racism. And
Right.
I don't question whether they love their spouse or not, because it ain't got nothing to do with that. It has to do with the pool that they were born into,
Yeah. And I would
what they have
suggest
inherited.
a similar thing might be said for where it's white couples,
Mhm.
but the wife loves her husband even if he might make a lot of gender negative
Mhm.
comments or have
Mhm.
that view or have a
Mhm.
have grow
There's
because
plenty chauvinistic
yeah, yes, that was the word I was
husbands,
looking for. So
chauvinistic
yeah.
husbands out there, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. That don't mean that they don't like a woman and want to be with a woman just
Yeah,
because they're
or the wife,
chauvinistic
or
and
is
can
that the
care less
wife
about women.
doesn't love them despite that, or
They can have
whatever
little girls and raise them and love them and still think a woman's place is in the
in
kitchen
the
barefoot.
kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so so it's that is the both
that's
and then what do we choose? What actions do we choose within that?
Mhm.
What behaviors and thoughts do we choose within that? How do we change the Kool-Aid? And I'm not saying like Queen, how do we change the Kool-Aid?
Right, right,
Just
right,
like a
right.
rhetorical
Well, you wouldn't want
question.
to ask Queen that
Mhm.
anyway, because you know that's one of those little isms that white people think all black people have Kool-Aid with tons of sugar in it. And
Oh,
there may be some truth to that, but that's for us to say and not for white people. Like
well, that
you
was
know,
not that I was not
there's
making that
I
reference
know, I know.
in any
Look,
kind of way.
did
Yeah,
did
sorry.
I just turn you orange? I'm sorry. I know. I'm just joking
No.
with you.
I mean, I have to say, like, these discussions are not easy. They're not comfortable, and yet I find myself loving them. I find myself thinking deeply way after the discussion has passed. I find myself feeling inspired by them. And just like you said, not inspired where I'm like, I'm going to blow up my whole life
Right.
to create drama and proclaim that I'm living differently, and and I'm changing the system, and but what this does, and what everything that we've done for the last year together has just made me go, just like, sometimes more frequently, sometimes less frequently, just depending on whatever else is going on. But like, how do I want to think about this today? How can I change my thinking to include everyone in my definition of humanity? And when specifically am I not doing that, even if I've been unconscious about it. Because I think that is what it boils down to, is
And
how.
can I put a question in there?
Sure.
And why is it that I think that I even have a choice in choosing
Yes.
who's
Why?
included? Like,
Right.
where does that come from? Why do
Yeah.
I even think I have a choice? Like, I get to choose who's in there and who's not. Like,
Why
where
is
does
it
that?
not just a default
Yeah.
that
Well,
every other person is
yeah.
human and
Why do
fully a
I feel that
person?
I have a
Hmm.
choice in it, and it's something that I get to work on? Like,
Yeah.
what makes me think I have that? Like, I have that level of um
Supremacy.
power
Power. Yeah.
and right to wield power in that way,
Hmm.
you know? And that's really the crux of supremacy,
Yeah.
is feeling that I have the power to choose what is human and not human, and what
Yeah.
I see as human and not human. That I have the right to even ask that question. Like,
Yeah.
I don't believe I even have the right to ask the question. Like, who am I to ask such a question? Like, I don't
Yeah.
have I just don't have a right to determine someone's humane
Humanity.
human
Yeah.
whatever. I don't even know what
Yeah.
how to term that. But like, I don't even have a right to look at somebody and think that I can ask such a question. And I don't care what they look like, where they come from, what they
Hmm.
like, if they have breath in their bodies. The same thing for animals. I don't feel like I have a right to look at an animal and think whatever, or
Okay.
nature, and
Hmm.
and make such judgments and all of that kind of stuff, right? I'm like here with that stuff. I'm here with it. I'm not the creator. So I'm
Yeah.
in this, like, I'm part of the created, just like all of these things. I'm not at the level to which I can question or define. And again, that goes into a way of looking at things, of being a superior who was told that you have dominion over.
But oh my God, like the words you're using, creator, dominion. Hello, Genesis.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the story.
yeah.
And so it becomes a right. It becomes, hey, that's I'm entitled to that. I was given that.
Hmm. I think that in the Bible they need to add a word. And I'm saying this tongue in cheek, right?
Girl, they added a lot
Yeah.
of words up in there, but go
Well,
ahead.
duh, yeah. But no, I just think they should have been more explicit to say, and God created white man
Hmm.
in his own image
Hmm.
to have dominion
Yeah.
over the
Well,
flocks in the fields. And
this is the interesting thing.
yeah.
When it's read by white people, that's who they see.
Well, duh, yeah, of course. White
God,
Jesus.
look at all the pictures of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
It's what they envision. When God
Yeah.
created man, he created white man. Now, we
Yeah.
all know scientifically that ain't true.
No.
We know that. We
Yeah.
know that it is not true, yet they believe that it's true by
Hmm.
choice, because they feel like they get to. I
So
get
that
to
is,
believe.
I'm saying that myth is where my feeling like I even have to unpack
Mhm,
my definition of humanity. Like, and I'm not shirking responsibility of that. Like, what it really landed when you said, I just am with creation.
mhm,
I'm with it. And yeah, so I get really stuck in the analysis and the process of dismantling,
mhm,
instead of the dismantling.
mhm.
Oh my, yeah, like
Yeah.
that feels like a light bulb for me.
Yeah. And when we know, and that's the whole purpose of us doing this talk with utilizing, oh shoot, where is it? Utilizing the philosophical and cultural differences, right?
Hmm.
That's the whole purpose in doing that talk.
Yeah.
Because once we understand how we operate, then we can strategically use it to
Right.
dismantle ourselves,
Right. Yeah. To break it down.
right? To
Yeah.
dismantle our to outwit ourselves. If we know how it
Hmm.
works, then we can dismantle it or work within it to shift and change
Right.
things,
Well, and
right?
it's really interesting. I have a couple of friends right now who are really, and have been for a couple of years now, in the work of holding the two opposites
Mhm.
and consciously working to change how they view that dichotomy and to erase the dichotomy and hold it all.
You know, I'm not so sure. At least by Dr. Nichols' work, he doesn't believe that it's likely.
Well, right.
uh,
But
however,
being aware of it and being aware
yeah,
of different viewpoints and like, okay,
yes,
how can I understand that
mhm,
better? And
yeah,
how can I open myself up to that? And it feels when I go into that work of like, let's allow it all, that feels better than opposites to me. That feels,
yeah. See,
it feels better.
to me, it doesn't necessarily feel better. Like to
Okay.
me, it feels like, but again, it goes into what we're talking about tonight, the
Hmm.
way that I, African Americans and Africans and Hispanics and Arabs think. Um, to me, it feels like I'm not going to put a lot of energy
Sure.
into that when I can just have everybody. And so when I need specific things done that requires the way of thinking of either or, then I can go to this person. And when I
Sure.
want
Yeah.
things that need
Choose your
this, I can
specialist.
go to this
Right.
person,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
that's going to be much more efficient than me trying to change
That's
me
true.
into being all these people. That's why I have all these different people. So that because not one person
Yeah.
can have all of that.
They can all use their genius.
Right. Because
Yeah.
not one person can have all of that. Whereas my judgment is based off of history. So it really is in my judgment,
Hmm.
is that the white person will say, no, I want it all. So I'm going to go and I am going to appropriate it.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
don't want
point.
them to do it. I don't
Hmm.
want them to be the geniuses of it. I don't want them to bring it in because then that means I have to allow them in. So what we'll do is we'll just go get their stuff. We'll go get their resources. We'll go get their
Yeah.
talents. We'll go get their
Yeah.
ways of doing things and we'll bring it in amongst ourselves and use it. Right?
Well, I think that is a really good lead in actually for tomorrow's topic,
What is
which
it?
is process.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did
And
you have any
so
questions? Because we didn't even, were you looking for any questions that anybody posted?
no, like everybody's been super quiet. We've had anywhere up to about 12, 13 people
Okay.
viewing. And I've
Okay.
been just, Christy did chime in to say she's tied up tonight, but can't wait to listen back. Amy mentioned that if you were going to go into yin and yang theory, that we should have had her on. um, Deborah, who is a woman that I know from social media, said preach after 7 minutes of our discussion, which I can't remember exactly what that was in reference to, but I'm really glad she was there. So yeah, I think people have just been kind of listening and watching tonight.
Okay,
We'll see
cool.
what
I just
happens,
wanted to
but
make sure we didn't overlook anybody, but thank
no,
y'all
I
for
would
hanging
have,
in there.
yeah, I would
Yeah,
have
thank you for
broken
hanging in
in.
there. Thank you for watching. Of course, we'll be on the same time tomorrow
Mhm.
on our last, I believe. And I
in
don't know if
in
we'll
the
tie it up. If
graph.
you send in questions, if you send in comments, enough for us to do another session just
Yeah.
to deal with those, we will. Otherwise, tomorrow night may be the last of this series.
Mhm.
And of course, you can go back and watch the first series on
Right.
the white myths, or white people facing race, the myths that keep racism in place. And that's on hardconversations.live. Hardconversations.live. You'll find those there.
Yeah.
You can rewatch these on Leah's page, as well as I have them on my page as well, that you'll be able to get to.
And
And
Queen, I'm just reminding myself that I need to talk to you about how to get these posted to
okay,
YouTube,
on
but
Hard
we'll discuss
Conversations
that. Yeah, we'll
Live.
discuss that
Yes,
offline. Okay.
we're gonna call on Amy for that. So
Okay.
so yeah, and then yeah, so you'll be able to see these on Hard Conversations Live as well, eventually,
Cool.
right?
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging in for our hard conversation tonight. Thank you, Queen, so much. I just want
My
to thank
pleasure.
you for this labor
Thank
that
you.
you're doing. And I can't wait to see what else grows out of this for you. And
Yeah.
y'all follow Queen on her feed, even though she's doesn't post on there super often about random things. She's super diligent about posting whenever she's going to show up to talk or
Yes.
have an event or do a program or something like that. So
Yes.
continue to follow her because yay. I mean, like, yay. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
All right. Good night, y'all.
Thank you and good night.